Now, here's what makes this assassination all the more shocking: the very unlikelihood of it. Shinzo Abe was assassinated in Japan, a country with one of the lowest rates of gun violence. I'm talking about a country of 125 million people. In 2021, Japan saw 10 shooting incidents. 8 involved gangsters, 1 person was killed, 4 injured. Have a look at the numbers from 2018. 9 were killed with firearms in Japan. The United States, in comparison, had over 39,000 gun deaths that year. You get my point. Gun terror is uncommon in Japan, and a former prime minister being assassinated by a gun, unthinkable. The incident does not add up numerically, historically, culturally, or even legally. Japan has close to zero tolerance when it comes to gun ownership. Let me show you some numbers. The country of 125 million has around 377,000 privately held guns, which adds up to 0.25 guns per 100 people. Getting hold of a gun in Japan is not only a difficult process, it's also a lengthy one. A person needs to clear 13 steps before he or she can own a gun. It starts with a firearm class, involves passing a written test, mental fitness test, getting a clean chit on drug dependence, taking a course on using and storing a gun, and then there are police interviews of the applicant, the family, also neighbors. There are background checks as well. Authorities also consider employment history, bank balance. Even after all of these steps, a person must get a gunpowder permit, buy a gun locker, go through another round of background checks, and then finally get a firearm. So long story short, it's not easy to get hold of a gun. Possessing a gun is also not desirable. Like I said, the country has around 377,000 privately held guns, which adds up to 0.25 guns per 100 people. The United States, in comparison, has 120 guns per 100 people. The United States also has a history of high-profile assassinations. 4 presidents and former presidents have been shot dead: Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, William McKinley, and more recently, John F. Kennedy. The sitting president was shot while he was driving past in a convertible in downtown Dallas. His car was a part of the presidential motorcade. He was rushed to the hospital. Kennedy died within 20 minutes. But incidents like these don't usually happen in Japan. The last time a prime minister was killed was in the 1930s. Post-war Japan has stayed away from firearms as much as possible. The country's tight checks on guns are rooted in the very idea of pacifism. Even today, the Japanese law in principle prohibits the possession of firearms. While there have been few incidents of shootings, they mostly involve gangsters using illegal firearms. Attacks on political leaders are far and few. The only political leader to be shot at in recent history was the mayor of Nagasaki. His name was Eiichi Ito. He was shot at in 2007 by an alleged gangster. The incident made Japan further tighten gun control measures. Possession of guns by gangsters and crime groups was made punishable by up to 15 years in prison. Possession of more than one gun was also made a crime, again punishable by up to 15 years. So long story short, in Japan, gun possession is an exception, not a norm. So a man shooting a former prime minister in the middle of an event with a homemade gun is unfathomable.
There are many gun crimes happening abroad, but I never imagined it would happen in Japan, and that a former prime minister would die that way.
This is not the United States where shooting happens often, so I am in shock. And he was only delivering a speech for the upper house election.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.